Today we will start the session of the first day with the topic New Deep Foundation Technology for Resurgent India by Dr. Sunil Basakar. Dr. Sunil Basakar is Head of Geotechnical Engineering at Afcon Infrastructure Limited, Mumbai. He has total experience of about 17 years in the field and 16-year association with academia in the area of geotechnical engineering. As a field professional, he is actively involved in geotechnical deliveries and foundation solutions for marine, metro, highways, tunnel for infrastructure projects across India, Afro-Asian and part of Europe. Dr. Basakar has published about 55 papers in various national and international conferences and reputed journals. He is an executive committee member of DFI of India and a nominated member from IGS for the International Committee for Land Reclamation. He is also a fellow of the Institution of Engineers, India, Indian Geotechnical Society and Indian Institute of Bridge Engineering. Dr. Basakar also serves as an editor of DFI Journal USA. We welcome you, sir. I request Basakar sir to engage the session, and participants are requested to keep their questions and ask them at the end of the session. Sir, you can share your screen.
Thank you very much. I take your permission to share the screen, and with that, I'll be commencing my presentation. First, I would just like to check up. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
it
sir.
is
Screen is
visible.
visible.
Yeah, and voice is okay for
Yes,
all?
sir,
Yes,
it is
sir.
fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being part of inaugural session and learning a lot about the Charutar University. And this being my maiden venture into the presentation in this esteemed university. I thank you very much profusely, the organizers of this HTTP, a faculty development program, for giving me a chance to share my views and experience. From what had been introduced about me, you could make out that I am a equibalanced field engineer as well as an academician, having spent close to equal number of years, that is 16 years, in the field as well as in the teaching profession. So that gives me a good opportunity to interact with you with as a normal fact of life. So academia and the faculty are very close to my heart. So I'll ask everyone to put up your so that at the end of the session we can take up the answer session and we can have a discussion. So welcome all, and thank you again to the organizers for a warm introduction about me. I'll be introducing and speaking about the new deep foundation technologies for resurgent India. I won't be taking or delving into the details of the deep foundation, but what exactly is close to the heart of Gujarat and what exactly is the need of hour for India. Resurgent India, something we need to contribute so that we meet the infrastructural growth requirement of India. So this is a collage where we have a hydraulic rig, we have a driven cast in situ piling setup. We can do piling under a very low headroom. We can do the trench cutting, that is a deep diaphragm wall, even in rock. Then this is advanced technology of bidirectional load test, and this is a synthetic stability fluid, which is commonly used nowadays. My content will be going through the driven piles with a case study at the Edge, driven cast in situ piles with a case study at Mundra. Then what are the recent technologies which have entered into the Indian market and what are the technologies required for making India a vibrant infrastructural hub across the globe. What are the load tests that can address to the fast-growing needs of Indian deep foundation industry? Then we had conducted an initiative at Hisar, which was about a continuous flight agar pile. So this we had taken up just to understand the need for the faster requirement of the piling. This I'll be taking up, and that will be followed by my concluding remark. If you are aware that there are board cast in situ type of pile which is to take up the heavy load. Is my voice audible to all? Because
yes, sir.
Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are clearly audible.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. So board cast in situ pile is the most common type of pile, a modern type of pile which is called the spun pile. And then there'll be a driven cast in situ type of pile, which is a very important pile. And it is also one of the rapid progress, the type of pile in which the rate of progress is very fast compared to the board piling. There are new types of pile, that is helical or screw pile, which we are trying to foray into Indian market. There are some trials going on. And continuous flight agar pile, that is CA pile, is something which we have introduced in India, and I had been fortunate enough, privileged enough to be a chairman of this committee, that is CFA pile committee, on behalf of the DFI of India. I'll be taking you to the trials which we had conducted and what is the roadmap ahead for the continuous flight agar pile. Worldwide, if you see that this is a pie chart, it gives an idea that majority of the pile belongs to the board pile, which includes the continuous flight agar pile as well as large diameter board pile. Together, they make about 48% of the total pile. Driven cast in situ pile, you will come to know it is about 31% of all the versions of the pile, that is driven precast piles, drilled micro pile. So this indicates that there is a definite dearth of entry of technology into India so that we can march ahead in a faster pace of growth. I take it to the driven pile, which may be by a hammer or vibration or by jetting, water jetting. So driven piles may be driven precast piles, and the actual element may be hollow. It may be a tubular, which may be in form of the spun piles, or it may be a steel pile, pipe type of piles, or it may be a solid. If it is a solid, it can be a circular or rectangular or hexagonal concrete piles. It can be a rolled steel members, or even timber piles can also be used. Timber piles is more popular abroad than in India, because in India we cannot afford the wood as it is a scarce material. There is a driven cast in situ pile, which means you drive it as well as cast also in situ, which is invariably of a concrete variety. We'll see what this type of pile is. This is driven precast piles, in which the RCC element is driven by a hammer or by other convenient means. Over here, you have a pre-stressed concrete pile. You can see it is a thick-walled pile, but it is hollow in nature. To drive these piles, we require a type of hammer. It can be any type of hammer. It can be hydraulic hammer, pneumatic impact hammer, one single-acting, double-acting hammer. Over here, you can see a solid RCC circular pile is being cast, and then here it is being cured. And because transport of the piles are not always very easy, we have a segment which is about 12 to 15 meters, so that the trailers, they can accommodate and transport these piles conveniently. That makes it a mandatory that if you have a pile greater than 12 meter, 15 meter, they will have to be jointed together. So jointing of segments, that is bottom driven segment and the top segment to be driven, is done in situ. It's called a splicing arrangement. So over here, the driven piles, they are actually, they come in the lengths. So wastages are very much possible, but being a good quality, the control of quality of concrete is very much nice. As I said, 12 to 15 meter length, so they will have to be jointed together. Typical section is about 400 to 500 mm in diameter or diagonal. Even 600 mm diameter piles, they had been possible to driven. Abroad, if you see in Thailand, Malaysia, or Indonesia, if it is a soft soil, even 1,000 mm diameter had been also used for driving. So longer the pile, you will require a jointed panel. So with this, I take you to one of the interesting case studies at Dahej at Gujarat, where we had driven the spun precast piles. This was during my tenure at ITD Cementation. It is an infrastructural company based in Mumbai. So this project comprised installation of the board cast in situ piles as well as the precast driven piles that is spun in nature for ethane type of tank and the storage terminal at Dahej. This was about a 33 crore project which started at May 2015 and it was completed in a span of just about 7 months in the same year. So driven precast pipe
Hello, sir. Your voice is breaking, sir.
About 24 meters in length.
Hello. Am I audible, sir? Your voice is breaking.
Am I audible now?
Yes, but your screen is not shared. Sir, you may turn off your video screen so that bandwidth can be saved and no interruption can be found.
I'll share the screen once again.
You may turn off your video screen, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. Keep reminding me in case I lose the loop or the network. Thank you very much and sorry for the inconvenience. So as I said that we had used a 75 metric ton crane, which were 5 numbers that were deployed, and each crane had a separate unit for driving, which means each crane was installed with a hydraulic hammer of about 9-ton capacity. There were actually hydraulic rotary rig also used for a board cast in situ type of pile. So over here, the precast piles, they have a lot of advantages that they have a rapid speed. A lot of piles can be done in a single day. The quality of the such piles are excellent. There's a good control and it is environmental friendly because the location of the site is very clean and housekeeping is absolutely perfect in those areas. If it is pre-stressed segments, if you are using, it increases the bending resistances. That is the advantage of having pre-stressed spun pile. That means for a given area, this pile permits more load to be taken up. So this, for the same cross section or the material, it has a more pile capacity. So that makes it all the more economical for using. So it provides internal compressive forces and increase in the pile stiffness compared to its counterpart, that is poured pile. So we can have a longer length of the pile and it takes a larger length, larger load. So there is a possibility that we can steam cure such kind of spun piles, and it can be done in the factory and transported to the sites by a trailer. So in India, there are about 2 to 3 such manufacturing units available that can manufacture the spun piles in their factory and transport to the site locations. Over here, this is the cast containing the spun pile rebar cage. There is a jacking at the both ends, and this is the arrangement which allows the concrete to be passed from the RMC, and it is poured into this mold by a hopper arrangement. On one side, we have a jacking arrangement so that pre-stressing can be done for the segments. And to ensure that the concrete is uniform all throughout, we rotate this mold in a spinning action. So there is a continuous RPM imparted to this spinning mold, and this ensures that concrete is applied and the reinforcement is surrounded by the concrete all throughout. Curing of the segments can be either by steam curing in form of autoclaves, or it can be done in the water curing tanks. Both are combined together because steam curing has a limited capacity, and establishment for steam curing requires large number of space and investment. So parallelly, some segments can be also water cured for about 28 days. Steam curing, for your information, is a very fast curing, and in fact, within 7 days, we are able to get the desired compressive strength of the concrete. This is our activity we had carried out at the site at Dahej. This, you can see the spun concrete pile being lifted up. This is a 12-meter segment that is being lifted up, and then it is stacked together at one of the designated spot at the site. It is then lifted up, it is aligned, and then it is pitched at the designated location. So over here, we had carried out one of the CapWeb analysis to study the drivability analysis, just to see what is the capacity of the pile immediately after the driving. And then the same pile was subjected to same test, that is a drivability analysis, after about 14 days or so, just to check what is the improvement in the pile capacity. So over here, this is a pile that is being driven, and you can see the pile length being driven, and slowly the height of the pile above the ground is reducing. So these are some of the setup. You can see that it is associated with the pile driving. Namely, you will see you have a hammer. We had deployed, as I said, 8-ton metric ton hydraulic hammer, and that was pitched across, that was kept across the top of these precast piles. Over here, you can see a pile helmet, and there is also a wooden dolly fitted inside the pile helmet, so that shocks or the damages to the pile head will be avoided. So since it was a 24-meter pile, there were 2 segments involved of 12 meters each. They were welded on the spot, and typical time required for welding the 2 segments in situ is about 45 minutes. There was first round of welding about 3.15 mm thick, and finally the 3 rounds of welding, which were about 4 mm thick together. So this is a completely driven pile and instrumented now so that we can perform the CapWeb analysis. So this is the test which is immediately after the driving of the pile, and it gives us the resistances in the side shear. It gives us the end bearing resistance so that the static pile capacity of the pile can be determined. And finally, we can also establish what is the termination criteria and what actually can be the increase in the pile capacity due to the setup criteria. In this site, you can see that over 2,000 piles were driven, and the pile setup, which means the capacity immediately after the driving and capacity after 15 days was more than 3, which means if we have about 100-ton capacity today, immediately after driving, the capacity at the end of 15 to 20 days could be as high as 300 ton. That's the advantage of having a driven pile, which means capacity increases with the time. So this is a typical arrangement. We had a 4-pile group with a cap. You can see how we can extend these bars. What we do, we provide a plate at a development length inside the spun pile, and on the plate we keep these extension bars. That is, these are the bars that will go into the pile cap. So that way we will ensure that the load from the superstructure will be transferred to the pile cap, and then it will be taken up by the spun piles. So this is a mechanism, an interesting mechanism that ensures that the loads are transferred to the spun piles. There is another variety of pile which is called a driven cast in situ piles, which means the casing, there is a steel casing which is having a bottom shoe, and this casing is driven by hammers. Imagine a closed bottom pipe driven by the hammer, and once it is fully driven, the hollow portion is fitted with the cage, and the hollow portion is now concreted, and then this casing is now withdrawn. So casing is a costly material, which is about 2 lakhs of each casing. So it is important that we extract the casing fully, and the pile will now be in position to be in contact with the soil around, and it will have a very high side shear resistance and end bearing. So this is a typical arrangement we have for driven cast in situ piles, which means closed end tube driving, concreting, and reinforcement. So over here, this is a steel casing of a single length. No jointing is done during driving. These are the pile shoes. These are the flat bottom shoes which are used during the driving operations. The casing along with the rig, you can see they are ready. And at the top, you can see above the casing, there is a hammer. As soon as the casing is pitched, there is a verticality check to ensure that the pile will be vertical. The initial verticality check is the most important aspect in the driven cast in situ pile. As soon as this casing is completely driven, the reinforcement cage as a single unit will be lifted up, and then it will be inserted into the hollow casing. Once the rebar cage is inserted, the concreting will be done by a hopper that will pour the concrete into the tube. And finally, after the concrete is poured in the wet condition itself, the casing will be withdrawn in an upward movement. It is important that casing is withdrawn only when the concrete is wet. Otherwise, when it sets down, it will be difficult to extract the casing. I take it to a very interesting case study in which we had performed the driven cast in situ pile at Mundra at Gujarat. You can understand that this Mundra is a port town, industrial town. It is located at the western shores of Gujarat. We had performed this kind of pile during 2008 and 2009 when Mundra was just a developing town. Nothing was there most of the available tools and equipments for any repairs also, they were available at least about 100 to 150 kilometers away. So the logistics was a big challenge at this site. So we had installed, driven a 560 mm diameter piles and 66-meter RCC rafts were actually supported by the driven cast in situ piles. So the scope of project was very huge. A sand filling, earth filling, together they were about 110,000 meter cube. Then there was a driven cast in situ pile of 560 mm diameter. They were 8,821 in numbers. Probably this is the world record in a single project where this quantum of piles were used. Reinforcement, including the piles and raft, they amounted to 4,800 and 510 metric tons. Then there were PCC and the RCC for the raft, which were to the tune of 45,000 meter cube. Number of load tests were conducted. You are familiar with the plate load test, but pile load test is another heavy duty test. And we have performed 37, 36, 14, and 850 integrity test, which includes vertical, lateral, and pull-out capacity of the pile. Overall, this is the strata we had at Mundra. Typically, they were the silty sand, highly compressible clay sand. In fact, they were almost a soft soil up to about 10 to 12 meters. And SPT-N typically varied from 12 to 19 for the top material. And then we had terminated our piles at about 17-meter depth at a SPT of about 36. You have to know that pile driving subsequently densifies the soil. That means the efforts for the first pile will be less than the effort for the 10th or 100 or 500 piles that are driven thereafter. So over here, this project was about for 6 months. It included mobilization, installations of the piles, including the test. So a big challenge for the project because there was a huge resources requirement. All the main market were about 100 to 150 kilometers from the project site. And all the equipments were new, particularly the newly fabricated pneumatic hammer, which was to be validated in this project time. The time was essential and time was very short, that is 6 months, kind of piling work which had never been observed across the globe. What could have been the execution strategy to meet this kind of challenge? We had mobilized about 2 rigs and a mobile plant within 2 weeks. This was on urgent basis. Finally, we mobilized 3 additional rigs and the units of the hammer to take care of the peak requirement of the progress. There were a mechanical team with complete inventory spares, adequate lighting and workforce. There was a standby plant as the nearest available workshop was 120 kilometers away. There was time motion study we had performed for each pile. That means what time is required for each activity of the pile, because essentially the pile was to be done within 30 minutes. A skilled manpower were selected within the Gujarat state and an advanced program for the work with the client and issuance of the drawing was met to get the schedule in time. What are the features, the strategy? We developed our own hammers indigenously. There was 5.4 ton ram weight hammer we had used. The drop of this hammer was 1.2 meter. It was crawler mounted. Yield was about 36 to 38 blows per minute, quite fast. Then there was a mobile batching plant of about 18 cubic meter per hour, which could supply the concrete of required amount. Then there was around the clock operations, which meant that this site had to be lit completely with the mobile towers, and 24 hours of working was possible. There were adequate number of service cranes with the spares. Supply of reinforcement cages were ready, and shifting of hammers, casing, etc. were fluent. There was sufficient number of transit mixers kept handy to supply the concrete. So our first pile started 47 days from the letter of issue of intent. We had carried out several improvements to ensure that the progress time per pile was increased. Cycle time was reduced to an average 45 minutes per pile, which is an unimaginable thing. Even some of the fastest piles we have delivered in 20 minutes in this site. Average progress requirement was about 90 piles per day. According to, because almost 180 numbers of rebar cage were required to be done per day. Manpower requirement for cage fabrication was huge. It was about 450 to 500 numbers. That made all the tasks challenging. So over here you can see pneumatic rigs in operations at the site. This is a typical rig we have at the site, and with the cage that are kept ready so that as soon as the driving operations of the casing is done, the cage can be lifted up and it can be inserted into the casing. So once the driving is done, once the concreting is done, then you excavate some of the portion of these location. So the exposed piles can be seen. You will find that this is a very, very neat site, which means there is no such disturbance, no such untidy site. It's absolutely a clean site that makes this driven cast in situ pile one of the most preferred piles, provided the technology is available with the contractor. So since the rebar cage from the pile has to be connected to the pile cap, it means that this portion of the pile will have to be chipped out. So there are chipping equipments which can be either manually, you can have a jackhammer and you can break these piles, or some of the mechanical and automatic modes of chipping machines are available. Finally, after the chipping, you find that these rebar reinforcements, they are exposed. They'll be shortly cleaned, and then they'll be ready for the inserting into the raft for the circular tank. So over here you can see that throughout this circular raft, all a network of piles are there. And then these pile reinforcement, they are straightened up, and then this is followed by the reinforcement cage for the raft. This itself was a Herculean task because a 66-meter diameter was to be entirely fabricated with the reinforcement cage and then concreted together. So over here, now the arrangement and the commencement of the concreting is in order now. You can see the millers are there, and parallelly couple of units are there where the concreting operations are taking place simultaneously. A very unique site and full of achievements. A project where we take pride in listing our achievements. Maximum number of piles installed in one day was 211, which is a record of sorts. A maximum number of piles we have installed in a single by a single rig per day was 40 numbers. 100 piles were installed per day for more than 44 number of times, which means 44 days we had observed our pile had been exceeding 100 piles per day. The maximum piles per week we had completed was 1042 numbers, which means close to about 130 piles we had completed in a single day of that week. Maximum piles installed in a month was 3,301. This is a record of sorts because many of the projects itself, they have a total number of piles as 3,301. If you recall the spun piling at Dahej, you'll observe that the total number of spud piles used there was 2,000. Imagine precast driven piles of driven cast sensitive piles, about 3,301 in a single month driven. The maximum length of installed pile in a single day was 48,360, which is a global records of sorts. Overall, this project, which was earmarked to be completed by 6 months, in fact, we completed this project 2 weeks before the scheduled time. Now, what are the important factors that contributed to the success of this project? We had a client completely happy because the quality standards were very high. The project was completed 2 weeks before the scheduled time. And what contributed to this happiness? In fact, there was total understanding and cooperation from everyone at the site, including from the client. There was a fast mechanism for the decision making, which means the client representative, the consultant representatives were always available at the site. And whenever the decision was required, they were delivered very quickly. The required permissions and preliminary site development works were completed much before the commencement of the piling. The deployment of advanced piling systems and timely mobilization of the resources were key to our planning success. Overall, ensuring execution in line with the project planning. So whatever was planned earlier, in fact, we delivered as per the project planning. There is a good support and prompt decision from the client, designers, and consultant. The owners, designers, PMC, and contractors targeted for a zero time loss. So this was a very, very successful venture. And in fact, we appreciate the proactive and a progressive mind of every Gujarati citizen. In fact, whenever we had a project at site at Gujarat, there were a lot of people used to come and they express their interest to get associated with the project. Even a small person, a professional photographer also used to come to us. He used to explain his capability that he can provide a good site photographs, a good site videography for every month and at a very, very competent cost. So that love to contribute, contribute towards the progress, that was a key factor in the success of this project. So hats off to the people of Gujarat, hats off to the progressive nature of Gujarat that enabled us to complete many of our major projects in Gujarat. Now, having said about the two technology of the driven piles, I come into the recent foray of the foundations in India. See, earlier piling technique were by a chisel and baler method, in which a heavy hammer was lifted up and it was dropped at a certain point. This was a common practice till 1990s. It was essentially very slow and it catered only to the board pile. So this trap-out method is still adopted by a small time contractor and wherever we had a rock socketing or even in marine piles. Now, in 1990s, the hydraulic rotary rigs were introduced. So this over here, you can see the hydraulic rig, and they enabled a very fast progress of piling at the site. There are a few limitations also there that in rock, they are going to be very slow and a lot of technology will be required to ensure that the piling in rock would be a possibility. So some new concepts that are introduced in the recent 2.5 decades. As I said, the driven pre-stressed concrete spun piles was initiated 2005 onwards, and it is now very commonly adopted in Indian sites. Then there is a trench cutting machine used for diaphragm wall construction in the weathered rock. This is a trench cutting machine you can have. It can be operated mechanically or hydraulically, but it enables a very rapid diaphragm wall, particularly in weathered rock. Earlier, till 10 years before, we used to do diaphragm wall only in silty or clay soil in a normal grab method. But with the growing demand and challenges, diaphragm walling or the retaining wall in the weathered and strong rock were also demanded. So with this, the technology advanced and the equipment advanced, and we are in position to do the diaphragm wall in the weathered rock also. Then we have a polymer-based slurry for borehole stabilization. This is essentially a technology advancement we have. We normally use a bentonite, उसको हम बोलते हैं मुल्तानी मिट्टी. मुल्तानी मिट्टी अगर आप देखेंगे, ये जमीन पे अगर आ जाएगी, तो इसका खेती बाड़ी करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. It is not environmental friendly. When we speak of polymer-based slurry, it means it is environmental friendly. It has a different technology. The surface of the diaphragm wall are very smooth. The pile frictional capacity is greatly improved by a polymer-based slurry. Then when we speak of driven piles, we need to perform the drivability analysis. Drivability analysis will give us an idea what is the length of the driven pile that will be possible in a given situation and what will be the capacity. So GRL Weep, in which we at FCONS also have, and many of the infrastructural company has equipped themselves with this GRL Weep software. We perform the drivability analysis by taking all the input parameters. These includes the weight of the hammer, type of hammer, length of the pile, material of the pile, the strata details, and stiffness requirements. And that gives us the termination level of the pile and what capacity this pile can achieve. Lot of advancements done. Over here, there are at times we need to do piling even below the existing flyover. You can see the flyover slab over here. So there are some of the chloral mounted equipments are there. They operate at a very limited headroom of just about 4 meters or so. So that means the piling of normal piles are possible under even a low headroom. The tools have advanced greatly now. There are advanced and heavy duty drilling tools which can drill in even in the hardest type of rock. There are smart piling hammers in which the weight of the hammer, as you see over here, hydraulic hammer, the weight of this hydraulic hammer can be varied between a 5 ton to even 8 ton by placing slots of the cast iron or the MS steel weights. Lot of advancements of the software have taken place for pile analysis, which means we have A pile, we have L pile, we have GRLV, we have a group pile analysis, which can give us a perfection what can be the pile capacity and what can be the group capacity of the piles. FHWA, that is Federal Highway and Work Association, Water Association. It's a US-based agency. It speaks of future readiness. See, the infrastructure requirement is increasing day after day. That means we have to also take up the challenges of the technology requirements. What it says, even very advanced countries like USA had organized a geotechnical engineering scan tour comprising a team of geotechnical and bridge design experts from the academic, federal, and the state government, the private industry to visit Europe. Their idea is with an objective to identify and evaluate the innovative European foundation technologies to accelerate construction and rehabilitation of bridge and embankment foundation in USA. Imagine if the advanced country like USA can think of having a scan tour to Europe to find out what technology can be adopted in their country. Definitely, India can also have a scan tour of what technologies can be adopted in India. US identified 30 technologies and up to 15 processes that can result in cost saving and improvement of quality of current practice. Taking inspiration of the countries like USA, we can think of what can be the technologies that can be adopted for a resurgent India. Let us see. We can have embankments that can be supported on columns, which means rigid inclusion or a controlled modulus columns. This is a type of method in which we can have several kind of non-reinforcement piles in a plan area, and these piles can be filled up with a padding layer of about 1 meter thick or so that any loads like a spread footing, a tankages, a containers can be supported by the embankments which are supported on the columns. We have done one of this technique, that is controlled modulus column, in one of our projects at Africa. In India, one such project had been carried out about 8 years back at Ranchi. That time the Menard India were there and they had executed that project. Stone column is a technology, but encased stone column with a geotextile material is going to increase the lateral spread. It is going to reduce the lateral spread of the stone columns. This technology needs to be adopted in India. Rapid impact compaction. These are adopted by some of the few agencies, but not a regular practice, which needs to be encouraged. So that any fill material, any loose material, they can be compacted by rapid impact compaction. Here we are going to adopt this particular method for one of our projects at Kochi, and soon within 6 months we are going to use this technology. The screw helical piles, the continuous flight auger piles, the computer controlled consolidation grouting, the horizontal vacuum consolidation, particularly where you require the PVDs, they accelerate the consolidation and they reduce the surcharge requirement. There can be a reinforced sound barrier system, which can result in damping of the sounds as well as the vibrations. Bidirectional pile load test, or what we call the Osterberg load cells, is already there in the market, and one of the agency in Gujarat has developed this proficiency. And many big infrastructural project we had started using in India, the bidirectional pile load test. Statnamic pile load test is another advancement in the pile load test technology, but it is just to get a ground in India, yet to make an entry in India. Pile instrumentation of various kinds are equally important, and they give us an insight of the pile behavior. They are already used, and instruments of various kinds are available, and being a small thing, they can be easily imported into India without much cost. So the list goes on and on, but yes, there is a requirement that this kind of technology should soon start coming into India. You can see a brick board cast in situ rig. Here you can have a base unit of the rig, which mounts all the houses, all the equipments, all the controlling panels in this unit. Then this rig, you have a mast, which is nothing but a vertical guide, vertical support for carrying out the drilling activity. There is a rotary drive, which actually rotates the Kelly as well as the drilling tool. And then there are some of the cables and winches which are used for performing the drilling and the boring operations. All this rig will have a control unit, which means an operator can sit peacefully inside the cabin and can monitor the progress automatically through the panel that is available. So this kind of rig is called an integrated rig, which is an advancement by itself, which can assist us in a form of good piling quality in the board piling. We can negotiate now the toughest of all the rock, which means even for the rock, which can be as hard as about 1000 kg per centimeter square UCS, can be broken up, can be cored by a Kelly drilling machine. So various kind of tools are available. These are the soil auger. This is the rock auger. This is also one kind of rock auger which can have a conical bottom. This is a complete cross-section rock auger. And this is also one of the auger specialized with the bits, even the angles of the bit, the material of the bit of a very heavy duty and a durable material. In order to have a very fast method of coring, we use a core barrel. So this is a rock core barrel, which can enable us to get rock cores from the piling method. There are roller bit coral barrel also, which can core at the periphery as well as at the center, and they enable a very fast progress of the piles. Imagine the complete core can be recovered during the piling. Cores can be housed and stored, and they can be even sampled. We can do the drilling work and you can determine what are the properties of the rock that are collected during the piling. So you can see this core barrel has collected the rock core, and it will be now removed and pushed and stored, and further drilling operation will be carried out. I take you to the next venture of the technology into the resurgent India. I talk of a deep diaphragm wall technology. Diaphragm wall is nothing but a deep retaining wall. It is a flexible retaining wall which is executed from the ground, which means from the ground itself, you dig a trench, a vertical trench, and then you insert the reinforcement and then you concrete it. Over here, you can see that this is a cage for the diaphragm wall panel being lifted up, and this is a familiar sight for you. I have been really privileged to be associated with the Sabarmati Riverfront project at Ahmedabad, where we had executed 13.5 kilometers of diaphragm wall on both sides, both banks of the Sabarmati River. Sabarmati River represents a trend-setting project, and soon other riverfront projects will be based in line of the model we had prepared for the Sabarmati River front. Now, what is this diaphragm wall? Diaphragm wall is a continuous retaining structure. It is cast in situ in trench execution, also called a slurry trench wall. So it can be used and applied for the shafts, the tunnels, the basements. It can be also used as a foundation for the superstructure. It can act as a seepage control. You can have a diaphragm wall, which we call a slurry trench wall, below the hydraulic structure so that it can act as a cutoff wall. It facilitates top-down construction. Remember, Ahmedabad is now a spurt and hub of activity where a lot of diaphragm wall construction is in progress. So top-down construction is one of the faster technology for the commercials, the metro station buildings, and one of the key components for top-down construction is the diaphragm wall. It means that to facilitate top-down construction, expertise in diaphragm wall shall be essential. So diaphragm wall thickness can vary from 600 to 1200 mm. Panel width, they are constructed in panels. It can vary from 2.5 to 6 meters. Each panel can be a linear panel. It can be L-shaped panel. It can be T-shaped panel. The depth of panel will vary according to soil condition. 20 to 22 meters is possible and quite normal. Even up to 40 meters of the depth of the retaining wall, the diaphragm wall, we had executed. How do we execute the diaphragm wall? Let us see. We have a ground over here. We are going to construct a small guide wall, which is a RCC guide wall, which is about 1 to 1.5 meter deep. We are going to put the bentonite or any polymer slurry inside the trench so that the stability is provided. And then we start the trenching operations by using a mechanical or a hydraulic grab. So once the trenching is done, a complete panel will be completed. You can understand one, the slot can be about 1/3 of the width of the diaphragm wall. We'll be doing one slot over here, one cutting over here, one cutting on either side, and then the remaining part at the center. We need to provide a vertical support also. For that, after the boring, after the trenching, we have a stop end at either side. So once the stop end is introduced, we will be inserting the cage inside the trench. The cage will be inserted and all the cleaning operations of the diaphragm wall will also be taking place. This will be followed by inserting the tremie on one side, inserting tremie on the other side. Remember, tremie is a concreting procedure for wet environment. That means if you have underwater and if you still want to do concrete, you will be doing a concrete by tremie operations. So tremie is nothing but a 250 mm diameter pipe with a hopper at the top, and concrete flows from bottom and it comes to the top. Then this is followed by a concreting from bottom to top. After completion of the concreting, your diaphragm wall panel is now complete. So you have the first panel, which we call a primary panel. Other panels, which doesn't have any other panels on the side, are called primary panels. If there is a panel on left side or the right side, this panel you are going to execute will be the secondary or the running panel. Finally, when all the panels are completed and only one panel remains, this panel will be called a closing or the final panel. So together you can see there is a continuous retaining wall that is called a diaphragm wall. Remember, when we do the concreting, when we execute the diaphragm wall, nothing is visible to us. That means we are constructing completely blind. All the qualities will be exposed when we start excavating inside the surface of the diaphragm wall. Let's see the construction. This is a guide wall excavation. The guide wall concreting is in progress. You can see that this is a T panel. It has a shape of a T. This is a trenching of the diaphragm wall. This guide wall, you can see it very clearly. You are preparing and fabricating the cage. The cage is being lifted up. The cage is being lowered. You can see that this is a T form of cage. That is, it is a T panel. There are two tremies are used to concrete the panel. These are the type of grabs which are used for the trenching operation. One can be a cable operated grab, which is mounted on the crane. The same hydraulic grabs can be used. Only thing, the crane over here has to be heavy duty. And then you have a hydraulic cutters, which is more advanced in nature. Over here, we take you to the beautiful journey of Sabarmati riverfront. This is the final product which you see, and almost, I believe, 100% of you have visited and enjoyed this particular recreation site. What was the aim of this project? The aim was to have appropriate development of the riverfront that can turn into a river into a major asset, which can improve the quality of an environment and life of the city, as well as improve the efficiency of the infrastructure. It was also meant to promote tourism, eliminate flood hazard, provision of informal markets, recharging of groundwater aquifer, and beautification of the city, city-level recreation spaces, and rehabilitation and resettlement of settlement for the slum dweller. One portion was earmarked for slum development. There are a lot of activities that were part of this project. Underwater filling was done, diaphragm wall construction, above water filling, anchor slab construction, raft construction, retaining wall construction, some driven cast institute piles were there, pile cap, premix flooring, ramps and stairs for providing the access, and then special filling material and pipe and box culverts for providing the drainage provision. What are the challenges? When we commenced this project, it was first of its kind in India. So expectations were very high. The scattered site was 13.5 kilometers that included diaphragm wall on both the sides. Innovations were required for trenching. There were special precautions for deep trenching, particularly because the sand was loose over here. Access problems were quite there. There were problems of flooding during the monsoons because of sudden release of the dam water. So a pictorial tour to this project. Initially, we were supposed to use the same sand which was dredged from the Sabarmati riverbed. That means we had to provide a dredging, pump the dredged material, and then fill it over here. So dredging of sand and filling of the dredged material were done simultaneously. So this is an early view of the project, which was about 2008-2009 time. So this is a retaining wall. It may not be clear, but I will just try to explain it to you. On this side, we had a river. We had then a diaphragm wall construction, and this diaphragm walls were connected to the anchor slab. This anchor slab could be anywhere from 20 to 35 meters. It was provided with the key. On next side, we had a retaining wall in which the fill was to be provided up to 49.72 meter. So this retaining wall varied in types. There were a cantilever retaining wall with the keys on the backfill side. If the height of the retaining wall was more than 6 meters, we provided a counterfort to increase the bending resistance capacity of the retaining wall. So cantilever retaining wall were to the tune of about 11,548 meter length. Counterfort retaining wall comprised 750 meters of running length. Retaining wall included a construction of 48 river access at different locations. So over here, this anchor slab is in construction. We had provided the PCC, there is a rebar cage, and then the RCC concreting was completed. This is a retaining wall which required that this had to be waterproofed in every way. Once the waterproofing and drying was ensured, then the backfilling of the retaining wall was taking place. Once the loose material was there, we had compacted with the vibratory roller of about 2-ton capacity. And this is a familiar test which measures the density of the compacted fill by sand replacement method. You can see the execution of the counterfort retaining wall. At the background, you can see the Sabarmati river. This is the 32-meter wide anchor slab under construction at the Vasna Barrage at stretch number 7. So this is the aerial view under the final stages of construction. This is the river. Over here, this is the diaphragm wall. This is the anchor slab. This is the retaining wall. It can be cantilever or the counterfort. And then we have a fill material on this side. So that means all the parks which you see belongs to this side, and there is a riverfront gallery you can have to enjoy the serene view of the Sabarmati river, both during daytime as well as during the night. Excellent architecture provided that has made this location as a tourist destination. A good deal of gardens have come up, sprawling gardens have come up, and beautification of this area is very clear. Night visit is something which you will all appreciate, is something, a memory to cherish. Definitely one of the prides of our execution and a milestone of my professional career, having spent and delivered some of my professional expertise to this project. And yes, this is something of a annual festival. The annual Kite Festival is one of the most cherished festival for not just the Gujaratis, but also people abroad. It has become a tourism for globetrotters. Now, what is the important challenges and achievements? It is a revival of iconic Sabarmati River as a public sanctuary for people of Ahmedabad. The ecological transformation of the Sabarmati River and its surrounding areas. It significantly improved the spatial structure and habitat condition of the river and adjoining areas. Fresh avenues of city development like public buildings, ghats, cultural and educational institutions, water sport recreation, public parks and plazas, they had sprouted in and around this riverfront. There is an uninterrupted pedestrian promenade on each side of its 10-kilometer bank. So this is a project which is now a model for the plans that are in Anvil for developing the Varanasi, for developing the Yamuna river front, the Ganga river front at Varanasi and Delhi. So already the blueprint is on. Complexities of Himalayan rivers is very high. So the modeling, hydraulic modeling, structural modeling is taking its own time. But definitely this Sabarmati riverfront project serves as a model for all the upcoming riverfront projects. As I told, we need a good technology for performing the pilot test because about 2 decades back, the pile maximum capacity of the pile was just about 1,000 tons or so. Nowadays, we go for a very high capacity of piles, which is to the tune of about 3,000 to even 5,000 metric tons. This is a conventional method of load test, which is called a Kentledge method. This we had carried out at Chaurangi Road, one of the very crowded locations at Kolkata. You can see so many height of the concrete blocks they had been provided, which is equivalent to close to about 10 to 12 meters of height. This is not a good practice, strictly to say, because this girder is going to lift up all these blocks in a cantilever action. A little bit of eccentricity can make all these concrete blocks tumble down, which is highly unsafe. It requires great deal of practice, great deal of expertise to have this method of test delivered. At my stint during ITD cementation, we had done a lot of such tests and we had that expertise and safety was of high order. But you cannot practice this continuously because of safety reasons. Coming to the rescue, we have a bidirectional test. This technology is now widely adopted in India. Within FCONS itself, we have conducted more than about 6 to 7 such load tests in a span of about 5 years or so. The popularity and the use is rising. Normally in our top loading test, our load is applied to the pile from the top. But over here, you apply the load at the bottom. When you apply the load, the reaction is coming from the bottom and load is transferred to the top by a side friction. So a lot of technology is involved, a lot of instrumentations are involved. There is advancement of instrumentation. This is a particular jack which expands both at top and bottom. This is called Osterberg cell. So this is essentially a bidirectional load test, which can be used to a very high test loads. Imagine a normal Kentledge load is applicable for about 2,000 tons of test load, whereas Osterberg or the bidirectional load test can be used fruitfully up to even 36,000 metric ton, which means close to about 18 times the normal load, which can be carried out by the Kentledge method. So this is an examination of the top and bottom movement of the O cell, which gives us an idea of the mobilization of the shear resistance. Another type of test which I need to include is called a statnomic pile load test, which also has an advantage of being called a rapid pile load test. It can be suitably be performed up to a test load of 4,000 metric ton. What is the principle of this test? Essentially, you have a weight which is kept on the pile to be tested. So B is the calibrated load cell, which gives us an idea what is the load applied to the pile. So this is the condition before the test in which reaction mass is in contact with the pile. This is the reaction mass, it is in contact with the pile. Then there is a triggering mechanism. Triggering mechanism means there may be an explosive, there may be a fuel which emits gases or steam, or it can lift up this weight mass. That means burning fuel creates high pressure, simultaneously propelling the reaction mass upward and loading the pile in downward compression manner. The applied load and the pile displacement are measured using high precision instrument and a data acquisition system. So once there is a triggering mechanism, the reaction is transmitted to the pile, and this reaction follows the Newton law, that is, the reaction to the pile action is committed. As soon as this weight is lifted up, there is a mechanism to lock in this weight. So after the load test, the reaction mass is safely caught using the hydraulic systems. So this is a very interesting picture that shows a comparison of the static as well as the statnomic load test. Here you have a conventional static load test. Look at the loads that had to be put up for conducting a 500 metric ton load test. Whereas a very slim mechanism is what is required for statnomic load test. In fact, in India, we haven't started the statnomic load test, but it is very popular in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Korea, China, and Japan. Europe and USA also have this technology, but with the onset of the bidirectional test, this technology is slowly getting in the back doors. So it is not so popular as the bidirectional load tests are nowadays. Assisting you in the pile capacity and assessing the pile performance, we have a instrumentation scheme. Instrumentation scheme, they assist us in the determination of the loads, understanding load transfer mechanism, what is the load at the pile base. It gives us an idea what is the elastic shortening of the pile so that the stiffness of the pile can be assessed. The pile top load and displacement can also be measured, and the verticality of the pile during loading can be determined by this in-kilometer tube. So what can be the instruments? It can be the load cell, it can be various kind of LVDTs, it can be the strain gauges, it can be the sister bars, it can be the various elastic tubes, it can be the inclinometer. All this, they give you an exact idea of how the pile is actually performing. Now, having said about the piling technology, what are the technologies India needs to embrace? There is a rapid infrastructural growth of the Indian infrastructure, and that demands that the piling technology needs to be very fast. So interestingly, even with the advent of hydraulic rigs, which are about 1,500 in numbers, there is still a requirement of a certain piling technology that can give us a higher productivity, ensuring safety and quality. Continuous flight agar pile is one of such piles in which higher productivity than the counterpart board pile can be ensured in the load range, which is about 50 to 150 metric ton, which means your pile load, if it is about 50 to 150 metric ton or even 200 metric ton, continuous flight agar pile would be a faster alternative to the conventional boat pile. We have a hydraulic rig already available, and with the minor modification in these rigs, CFA piles can be installed. What is this pile all about? I'll just try to explain. This is a piling rig. It is fitted with the continuous agar. That means if the pile, if it is about 20 meters, the continuous agar will be close to 20 meters. The piling will be initiated, the boring will be initiated by a continuous movement of this flight into the ground, and boring will be taking place. While boring is taking place, all the soil goes inside this spiral agar, which means this soil itself stabilizes the vertical wall of the pile bore, which means no stability fluid is required. Once you have reached the bottom, you start raising the agar. While you raise, concrete is being poured inside the hollow portion of the agar, and it comes down at the bottom. Just remember, while you're retracting the agar, while you're taking up the agar, there is a simultaneous pouring of the concrete from inside tube, and this concrete or the grout is replacing the pile pour. Interesting part is that after the wet concreting is done, you will have to push the total length of the cage into the wet concrete. This is the toughest task and one of the uniqueness of the CFA pile. That means pile reinforcement is being pushed into the wet concrete. Once the entire reinforcement is pushed, we have a CFA pile ready now. What are the benefits? CFA pile installation process has lesser number of activities. They require less equipment, less resourcement. No support fluid is required. Bentonite is known to be environmentally non-friendly. No kind of stability fluid is required for CFA pile. There is a cost saving because of a high progress. They are easier to maintain. A quality is of very high standard. It is possible to install CFA pile in less than 30 minutes, whereas boat pile takes close to 1.5 to 5 hours to execute. What is the present scenario in India on CFA pile? CFA pile is not executed in India so far. There are apprehensions that the cage pushing into the wet concrete can spoil the quality or may not be possible. Concrete logistics is also not still smooth in India, but definitely now the things are improving. No code or standards or guideline exist for CFA pile in India. Therefore, there is a need to standardize such piling practice in India. So these are two typical options. Your CFA flight can be either crawler crane mounted or it can be mounted in hydraulic rig. Both are available in India. Therefore, adaptation of this technology is definitely possible. Keeping this in mind of the faster progress requirement in India, DFI of India had commenced a technology trial at Hisar in Haryana state. This was the organization set up with the committee members, and I had been privileged enough to head this technology committee for the continuous flight agar pile. I had a very strong supporting team, which you can definitely see. It came from all walks of life, from every infrastructural companies, for every consultant, from academia, from the owners, from the people abroad. And this formed a very strong committee at the site to execute, to prove that CFA piles can be possible in India. Essentially, this was not a R&D project. In fact, it was a demonstrative project just to demonstrate that such piles can be executed in India. We even called the professors from IIT, we called the IS committee members to observe and appreciate the possibilities. So this is a typical location. It was about 210 kilometers from Delhi by road. The site was one of the nuclear power plant construction site near Fatehpur at Hisar. The site conditions was typically sandy silt. The silt content was 65 to 80% for top about 20 meters. Sandy silt content, the silt content was less at the bottom. That means sand content was higher at the bottom beyond close to about 19 or 15 meters from the top. Water table over here was considerably high, which means the quality was a concern, and that demands a great control on the quality and execution of the CFA pipe. We had carried out these operations. We commenced these operations in November 2017 with the geotechnical investigations. Our plan was to have 6 trial CFA piles of 600 mm diameter and about 11 meter in length. Before these 6 trials, we had 2 pre-trial piles, which means these are the 2 probe piles, just to understand, because since we are doing for the first time, we need to know and learn from these 2 trial piles. Of these 6 piles, 2 were earmarked for vertical load test, 2 for pull-out load test, 2 for the lateral pile load test. And also we did many low-strain dynamic integrity test, including the thermal integrity profiling. Thermal integrity profiling was done for the first time in India. So this is a typical layout of the boreholes and the pile locations. This is the typical cage we had fabricated. You can see that there is a 10 mm spiral, which is a stirrups spaced at 150 mm center to center. There were 8 bars of 20 mm diameter, and this pile was 11 meter length. There were actually the spacer bars that were spaced at 1 meter center to center. So overall, it was meant to impart rigidity to the cage. Success of the CFA pile depends largely on the rigidity of the cage, because this cage has to be pushed into the wet concrete. The pile was instrumented also. We had seen that 2 piles were instrumented with heavy duty strain gauges. There were 3 gauge locations, gauge 1 at 1.22 meter, second at 5.79 meter, third close to the bottom, that is at 10.36 meter center to center. So these gave an idea of the load transfer and the quality of the concrete with the time. So immediately after the concrete, there were also a thermal profiler, which could give us an idea what is the temperature within the cross section of the pile. So these were the schedule of the piling. We had installed the piles at the end of the May. There were 3 days spent to install about 8 piles. Then we had conducted the pile load test. The pull-out test was 70 ton, vertical pile load test was 170 tons, and the lateral test load was 12 ton. And load tests were performed during the first and second week of November. Some of the snapshots of the site. This is the execution work that is going on for the CFA pile at the site. You can see a continuous flight agar. This is a concrete pump ready. You can see the concrete pipe is slowly connected to the top, and it is connected to the flight, so that immediately concreting through the inner tube of the agar could be possible. This crane was mobilized to lift up the cage and lower it into the concreted bore. Over here, the fabrication is in progress. You can see the spacer bar. They are almost spaced 1 meter center to center. Over there, you are putting up the main bars, and then the fabrication is taking place. Essential feature was that we did not use binding wire. In fact, all the connections were rigid and they were welded. So to the cage, you can see the instrumentations are being connected. And this is another typical view which shows the piling works in progress. You can see requirement of a good housekeeping is essential. So we had a dozer that used to clean up and remove the muck immediately. This is the concrete you require. You require a very high slump concrete. You can see it's almost a flowing concrete with a slump of as much as about 800 mm. Normally, a concrete pile will have a slump of 180 to 200 mm, whereas here you require at least 4 times the slump or the flow value. Here the cage is being entered into the concrete. This is the cage which is completely inserted into the wet concrete. This is now the completed pile. We had performed the load test on the pile also. 2 load tests were performed on the pile P2 and P3, and they were subjected to maximum load of close to 180 metric ton. So even in this highest load, the maximum displacement seen was 12.722 mm. Next displacement was 8.88 mm. That means a rebound of 3.8 mm was taking place. You can see that the performance of the 2 piles were exact, which indicates that workmanship and the quality of the CFA piles is uniform. It gives a uniform load if the workmanship is ensured. This is the lateral load test. Lateral load test was performed on P4 and P6 piles, and we had subjected to a 12.873 maximum test load. We had seen that even on application of this load, the lateral displacement was seen to be 2.42 mm, 2.065 mm. In fact, the required displacement of 5 mm was not reached. Over here, you can see almost a similar nature of the curve, indicating a consistency in the pile capacity by a CFA method. We had also performed the pull-out test. How the piles are pulled. The main bars of the piles are welded to the casing, and then casing is lifted up by a hydraulic jack. This is the load test results we had for the pull-out test. Even at application of 70 ton of load, total displacement was just small, 1.62 mm. Net displacement was 0.7 mm. This speaks of a success of the CFA pile, because all 3 versions of the load test, they were able to give us the required results. So this is a team which are raising their hand of success after the completion of the trials. You can see a lot of expats were also there. They had been flown down from Italy, from USA, from other parts of Europe. They also happen to be part of the CFA program. You can see myself as a team leader after the success of the test. They were representatives from the DFI of India and all the experts, all senior experts who had ensured that the trials were led to the success. So what is the accomplishment? The demonstration of this project, which involved execution, design, installation, and testing of the CFA pile, was successfully conducted between November 2017 to November 2019. That is 2 years. Testing of CFA piles was conducted in November 2019. And all the tests, they revealed that ultimate capacity were 15 to 20% higher than the estimated capacities, which meant that there is a possibility of upward revision of the design input parameters for confirmation, and we can perform several such load tests to get into the exactness of the parameters. Our piling committee are keen to have the following documents developed and share with the Indian construction industry so that this technology is well understood by one and all. These documents are available on request It includes the design and execution document, the planning methodologies, the exact experiences of the load test, the trials of the pile installation we had conducted at the site, the compendium of all the load tests carried out at the site. We even have a draft code in the series of 2911, and we are trying to pursue the codal panel, that is 2911 BIS code committee, to make sure that CFA piles also come under purview of the Indian code. This committee shall put up a continuous effort to facilitate implementation of the CFA piling technology in the future projects. To conclude my presentation, I tried to make a presentation on the various types of piles which are common in India, and the case studies, particularly keeping in mind the developments in Gujarat, had been discussed with you. Since 1990s, there have been entries of piling technology in India, and some of these had been stated in this presentation. The piling case studies of Gujarat were presented, which include the spun piles at Dahej, the driven cast institute piles at Mundra. The case study of the Sabarmati riverfront project was also presented, conveying how the diaphragm wall and the retaining walls can be used to bring into the infrastructural and the recreational sectors of the India. Despite having stated that technology have gained entry in India, there is still a wide gulf in practice within India and what is practiced in Europe and USA. So this gulf needs to be bridged by encouraging and adopting new technologies at tender stage itself. The owners, particularly those who are actually making the projects, they shall use and make it mandatory for use of such technologies during the tender time itself. This will encourage more and more engineering firms to roll out their technologies and usher a growth of nation and forward thinking. DFI, to which I play an active role, is attempting to demonstrate this CFA technology pile elsewhere also, apart from the Haryana, which has already been done. We are trying to get in touch with L&T and execute this kind of piling project at a Barmer refinery in Rajasthan. So there are fresh technologies knocking the doors of India. As an infrastructural player, we need to have several choices of such technology so that such situation-based solution can be adopted. Therefore, the fresh deep foundation technologies need to be encouraged in India through governments, major owners, consultants, and also the academician. Technocrats like you, academicians like you, have important and pivotal role to play. That means even you as a faculty can bring technologies to India, and it is hoped that the project owners and all stakeholders embrace and encourage the new technologies for the India's future development. With this, I conclude my presentation, and I thank the Charotar University of Science and Technology for giving me so nice opportunity to share my experiences. My thanks to the head of the Department of Civil Engineering, to Professor Katakia, the principal of the institute, and all the management of this esteemed institute for giving me a privilege to share my experiences. Special thanks to the other faculties, the participants, and the students who are also sparing their valuable time to attend this presentation. I belong to FCON's infrastructure. My experiences are also there at ITD Cementation, and I owe much of my presentations, which are made, to my organizations. And I thank profusely for encouraging such kind of proactive, places, proactive participation in our projects. Thank you, one and all. So now this platform is now open for discussion. I'll just stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The session was very great.
And I request if any attendees or participants want to interact with the expert, they can raise your hand. We will allow them to take up the interaction with the expert.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Basarkar, Dr. Manchkan Srinivas, Visakhapatnam. How are you? Is my voice reaching you?
Srinivasan, can you speak a little bit louder?
Yeah. I will try to speak. There's some audio problem. So, how was the presentation? Was the voice audible in
Yes,
the?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Is my voice reaching you?
Srinivas, sir, little bit louder.
Is my voice reaching you?
Yes, sir. Now it is fine.
Me. Yes. Yeah. Good morning, Dr. Basarkar. How are you? Manchkan Srinivas from Visakhapatnam. How are you?
Fine.
Wonderful, excellent presentation as always. But then I have a couple of questions. I just ask them in gaps, because if I ask all the questions, the other participants also. I just ask few questions now, and I'll take opportunity later. You mentioned about driven cast to pile, but then this is a new technology anyway. But then yes, the driven part is not for the pile, but for the casing.
Correct. Exactly.
Yes. And what is the on an average rate of installation of a pile per day with the kind of equipment which we have now around?
This pile, typically, if it is about 500 to 600 mm diameter, one pile can be driven on an average about 35 minutes. Driven cast into pile.
Okay. Driven cast into pile.
Yeah, they are very fast. Same pile, if it is board pile, it will take at least 2 hours to execute.
But then there will be a length limitation also.
No, there is no such investment. Extra investment is not there.
Okay.
Only thing is soil condition should be favorable. So it means we'll have to examine the bore logs, a detailed soil investigation report, and decide if the conditions are favorable, then driven cast into pile can be installed. Only a couple of agencies in India, they deliver this kind of piling method. So availability of agencies who can execute is also key factor. Thank you.
But then why did you go in for a spun pile when we have solid piles? Just because of the material saving, or like even other criteria also you considered?
Spun piles, they have advantage. For the same material, capacity is high. So definitely they are economical compared to other versions of driven piles. Board piles are having some disadvantage because it demands a lot of quality attention. And negligence can be a disaster. But the quality is guaranteed in driven cast into piles, in precast spun piles, precast driven piles. So quality is a big advantage in precast piles.
What is the maximum length of spun pile you have worked with, kind of?
Mass of reinforcement.
Maximum length of spun pile you have encountered.
Okay, spun piles about 36 meters we have used. 36. There were 3 segments. Okay. We have driven spun piles at Krishnapatnam at Andhra Pradesh. Okay. So I can say about 3 segments of piles had been driven, and we have even driven precast segmented piles to the tune of 42 meters at Haldia. Okay. And this had 2 joints. Okay. It was a square section, and there were 2 joints, welded joints, and we could deliver this precast driven piles very successfully. But for your information, even 100-meter precast piles have been driven in India by one of the companies, Indian-owned company, 100-meter pile. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. You lost me. I lost you.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah. I lost you actually because there was a power failure anyway. I mean, what is the order of diameters you're looking at? Order of diameters.
Diameter of precast pile, you're telling?
Yes, the spun pile and the other.
See, one thing to be noted, we can drive up to 600 mm precast piles, because if you have a higher diameter pile, driving efforts will be high, driving energy will be high, which means heavy hammer, and there is a likelihood of higher damage to the pile top and pile bottom. So at best, the diameter is restricted to 600 mm or less.
Okay. But for the CFA one, you said the concrete is poured in and then the cage is lowered.
Sorry, can you repeat?
For the CFA pile.
Yeah.
Concrete is first poured in and then the cage is, pushed inside.
Yeah, correct. This is the difference.
There's under hydraulic pressure.
It can be, in fact, cage should be inserted by its own self-weight. Ideally, the
slump is very high.
Yes, your concrete, there are two key factors that contribute to success of CFA pile. One is the flowing concrete, which means the concrete should have a very high workability. So that if the cage is rigid, as I told, the second factor contributing is a rigid cage. If the cage is rigid, it will flow, it will go under its own weight for some length. Ideally, all the pile length should be covered by the cage itself under its own weight. If something if it doesn't go, then we have the vibrators. They can drive, drum vibrators are there. They can be put above the cage and we can push it. So drum vibrator should be kept ready at the site.
But do they meet up with some resistance after they go under the self-weight? After some time, do they meet up with some resistance at the bottom? The cage.
Yeah. They can be a full-length cage or they can be a partial-length cage. But they have to be inserted. In Indian condition, it requires a full-length cage.
Okay. But then you mentioned about instrumentation. Is instrumentation again part of the pile and it's not removed after the pile has been cast? It's part of the instrument forever?
While we lower the cage itself are fitted with the instruments.
Okay.
So once they harden, the instruments, they start functioning and then they give you what is the strain at that area, what is the temperature at that area.
Okay.
And if it is properly interpreted, it gives you the load transfer. A very interesting, in fact, one instrumented pile can become a PhD information for you, PhD input for you.
But the instrumentation is part of the pile forever?
Yeah, forever. If the instruments are durable, they can give you lifetime information. But it requires heavy duty strain gauges. So these strain gauges are also installed in some superstructure in the piles. Okay. And the long-term performance of the pile is also recorded. That means a creep in pile, the creep loadings, long-term negative skin drag, they can be recorded by this heavy-duty durable instruments.
Oh, you've been very patient. But one last question: like, what is the cost per running meter of the pile then?
Each pile, I won't say per running meter, but 11 meter pile. It cost us about 5 lakhs per pile. That was the cost for us. Oh. See, I'll tell you, the cost can be easily calculated. You can take the cost as 5,000 to 8,000 rupees for concrete per meter cube.
Yeah.
And steel cost can be taken as about 50,000 per metric ton. Yes. And additional cost of instruments and all, they can be per pile, they can be taken for about 1 lakh or so. And other labor parts and all. So that cost can be easily worked out. If you see the material cost and all, the cost of the CFA pile and other pile will be same because the basis of the cost is the material cost.
Yes.
But what advantage we have over here is saving in the time. That means the productivity time is saved.
Exactly. Very nice. The instrumentation is part of the pile forever, for the lifetime of structure. The instrument is not removed.
Yeah, they are often there, buried. But normally, Indian or any other place, we don't have actually the access or long term unless it is a dedicated part of contract. They'll be measured.
Okay.
Otherwise, after a couple of weeks or so of observation, it is deemed that they have served the purpose and it will be aborted.
Abandoned. Okay, right. That's
yeah, correct.
Thank you. Very patiently, you have answered these questions. Thank you so much. I'll use all this in my lectures.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Hello, sir. Thank you for wonderful presentation. Mehul here.
Yes.
Sir, I have one question. Sir, I have observed that many times the walkway portion of the Sabarmati riverfront is being flooded in high monsoon time. So, is it designed in such a way, or is it just a miscalculation in the flood estimate, or something else?
Sorry, can you repeat? I could not.
Sir, I have observed that the walkway portion of Sabarmati riverfront is being flooded in high monsoon time.
Yes.
Okay, many times I have observed that. So, is it designed in such a way, or it is just miscalculation in the forecasting of flood water or other things?
No, it is designed. It is particularly designed to consider all the hydraulic nature of the Sabarmati river. Just see, before this Sabarmati river front project, the Sabarmati river was nothing but a kind of nala, which most of our Indian city rivers are. So it was shallow. The discharge was very less. After the dredging operation, the channel depth was increased, the cross section of the channel was reduced, which means the flatter channel was now converted into a deep and a less wider channel. And whatever extra space we got, we did that socio-economic activities over there. So they were designed for hydraulics, there were flood discharge measurements, there were all kind of siltations measurements available. All the surveys were done thoroughly so that this riverfront project could be taken as a yardstick of success.
Okay, sir, got it. And one more question, sir. Is there any difficulty faced during the construction of the diaphragm wall because it is close to the water surface? So, what difficulties may face?
There are a lot of difficulties. In fact, things cannot be smooth. Even for this Sabarmati project, there were a lot of bottlenecks we had seen in the diaphragm wall construction. Like, since most of the work is done in an unseen environment, that means you are doing everything from ground. And later then you start excavating on one side of the diaphragm wall. So some quality issues are always there. That means some steel may be exposed on the surface. We may have to do the repair work. In some cases, there may be exposure and a deep kind of filling, grouting of concrete will have to be done. So these are part and parcel of such projects which are executed. We normally get paid for the concrete as per the cross-sectional area of the diaphragm wall. But diaphragm wall is nothing, it is without any panels, which means concrete is being poured into the trench. And the soil, vertical soil for surface itself, it serves as a plywood shutter. If the soil is weak, the concrete consumption can be more. That means we'll have to spend extra concrete from our own pocket to ensure that the diaphragm wall construction is taking place successfully. So a challenging project, being the first kind of project, it was, we did all possible things to ensure that all the bottlenecks were plugged.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Some questions are in the chat box. I will read it for you. How to minimize the effect of negative skin friction during pile foundation installation?
How to minimize what?
Effect of negative skin friction during
Okay.
pile foundation installation.
See, one big reason for negative skin friction is the settlement of the surrounding soil. If you feel that the surrounding soil is liable for settlement and large capacity will be lost because of negative skin friction, it is better to increase and improve the ground, which means reduce the settlement or eliminate the settlement by either grouting of some forms, or you can provide PVDs so that you can do all the settlement before the construction. So allow the pre-settlement to take place, and you're going to reduce the negative drag. Secondly is that at the outer surface of the rebar, one trial we had made in which the rebar surface was encased with the geosynthetic membrane for the portion of the soft soil. So this geosynthetic ensured that a smooth transaction existed between the pile and the soil, so that any form of friction was absent altogether. So these are some of the technique. The best thing is we have to take it into account in our design itself, in case it is unavoidable.
Yes, sir. So one more question is that what is pile stiffness and how to calculate the pile stiffness?
Stiffness is nothing but, to speak in plain terms, it is the modulus of elasticity of the pile material, E value. That is conventionally taken as the stiffness value, E value, for most of our software. So if the concrete is good, if the concrete is of high quality, it means the pile is having a higher stiffness. So how do you measure the stiffness in the pile? One thing is you have a elastometer or the extensometer, which are nothing but the rods. The rods are fixed on one side, one end of the pile, and they are open on the top. So initial reading is taken, and once the pile is loaded, the final reading of the elastometer is taken. So this difference gives you the extension of the pile. And then you can calculate E. What is that? Load, stress by strain. And stress by strain is measured by the load you have applied, by the extension you have measured by the elastometer, extensometer, and that gives you the modulus of elasticity. This simple principle is there, and it is very profusely followed in the field. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So one of our participant is asking, CFA piles are designed by taking consideration of friction and end bearing as well. So if friction credit has been lost due to the liquefaction or any such other reason during the operation, how CFA piles taking care of load transferring during such scenario?
This is a good question, but not just restricted to CFA pile. In fact, it is applicable to all the piles. In case of liquefaction, how you are going to address the capacity? You know, all depth doesn't liquefy, and pile has to be taken to a depth where there is a stability. In case of river, the pile has to be taken below the scour level. That means even the scourable depth of the pile is scoured, still you will have the required capacity. In the same way, the pile has to be taken below the liquefiable depth. So essentially the pile capacity will be derived from that portion of the pile which lies below the liquefiable depth. So it means before determining the pile design, we have to know what is the liquefiable depth. We have to carry out the liquefaction analysis. We have to carry out the liquefiable depth. We have to make the assessment of liquefaction. And then for the design, we are going to eliminate, we are not going to take into account the liquefiable depth as a contributing factor to the pile capacity. This is the philosophy we adopt in liquefiable zone.
Sir, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Sir, is there any connection between different panels of diaphragm wall? Because its construction is going panel wise. So is there any connection like reinforcement connection or to prevent the leakage of water, or what things we are using between panels?
Sorry, connection between reinforcement and?
Connection between various panel of diaphragm wall.
Okay, very important question. As I told, diaphragm wall are constructed in panels, which means it can be 2.5 meter to 6 meter. So if one panel is connected, between the edges of the panel, there is a rubber stopper. That means half portion of the rubber stopper belongs to the concreted part. The other half of the rubber stopper will be belonging to the other panel concrete. So this rubber stopper ensures that the joint between the two panels will be completely watertight. We have executed kilometers of diaphragm wall, and we have seen that the rubber stopper had proved to be a most reliable solution to stop the water leakage in the joints. Secondly, the edge of the panels, they are not straight, they are not rectangular. In fact, they have a small design portion which we call key, which means panel number 1 is going to project into the panel number 2 through the specially designed key. So these key, they have some seismic resistance property, and they also ensure interlocking of one panel with the other, which means if the load is applied to the diaphragm wall, the settlement of the diaphragm wall will be equal throughout the panels. One more thing about diaphragm wall is that after diaphragm wall is constructed, there is a capping being provided at the top. This capping beam ensures a homogeneity of the diaphragm wall. Remember, diaphragm wall is used both as a lateral retaining wall as well as a vertical columns, which we call barrettes. Barrettes are nothing but a rectangular column of large length. Lot of barrettes are nowadays have been commonly used to support the basements. Ahmedabad is seeing spurt of activities of deep basements. In fact, it was our company which started the trend of having diaphragm wall for the basement and then having the soil anchors so that the diaphragm wall can be supported during the excavation, and also it could take up the higher loads. Thank you. A good question.
Thank you, sir. Any more question? If any participants want to ask? I think, sir, no more questions we are having. Sir, the session was very great. You have covered lots of information regarding the deep foundation technologies, then diaphragm walls, CFF pile foundations, spun pile foundations, and through the various case studies like the Sabarmati riverfront and the Mundra region. So the session was great, and we are also receiving a positive response from the participants in the chat box itself. So overall, the session was very great. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed the questions also. It was a really high quality questions. I normally don't get such high caliber questions. So it indicates a learner audience I